also like, but I was like, this is when it starts. This is when my business starts. So I would rephrase it back to last March, like start of COVID. I was like back on my feet. I feel good. I feel like literally a new person. I can't even describe it. And I know we feel that way when we decided to follow Jesus because it's massive changes in our life. And I put right here on the now, that's when I met my husband last March. We had met years prior, but we got to reconnect, dated for 3 months, got engaged, and then got married this March. So here we are. And that's a massive, massive part because over that past year and a half, I feel like when I started coaching to now, it's just a different story, right? And so I do full-time coach now, and then we live in Missoula, Montana. He is in collegiate ministry. So we are at the college here. So a lot of our days look like coaching during the day for me, and then we'll do ministry activities at night and on the weekend. So definitely an awesome balance. But now I just feel really firm in my voice and my message, and my transformation isn't just Beachbody. It is something so much deeper, which is what I'll get into later as well. But I think this is why it's really important to talk about that, because success is a question that I want you guys to actually talk about with your husbands. And I'm sure you have, but I think going into 2022, we are in the last quarter of the year, which is like how already? I don't even understand. But success looks different for everyone. I know Caroline and I were sitting at the leadership retreat, and we get to hear amazing coaches called up and recognized and celebrated. And at the same time, you get to decide what that celebration is for you and your family. What does success look like for you? Because it really means something different for everyone. Because I was the girl that was sitting, getting a call about elite. And I was like, this isn't success. This doesn't feel fulfilling. Fulfilling feels like having a downline and a team where I can look into them and I can speak into them and I know what's happening in their lives. And I know we have deep friendships that go beyond Success Club in rank. And that's beautiful that you all have that right now. And so getting to redefine that has totally changed the way that I speak into my business and build my business and our team as a whole. And we may not be elite like we were before, we were going to be, but it feels more successful now, right? And I'm not sure if you guys can understand that, but feeling successful because of deeper reasons. And I really believe that ranks and income are just a byproduct of having that really firm foundation. So we're going to get right into it. The thing that I want to talk about is something that has literally changed the culture of our team and then also our Instagram. So today I'm going to talk about, it kind of comes down to content creation. And I know we get trainings on this a lot, but it really is starting to define like how you're speaking to your audience, how to hop on your platform and not compare yourself, but actually feel so firm in your mission that in some ways it feels not only easy to get on, but actually feels like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing today. And it feels good. So we're going to go over that. And I'm obsessed with my team. So you'll see photos of them on every single page. But first, we're going to talk about mess and mission. I noted here that my business changed when I changed, and as you guys evolve and change, these two things are always going to shift, but it's really important to be clear on them. So first, what we're going to do, I have a lot of activities for you guys to do alongside with me today, is to define your mess. And this is something that I recommend doing. I do this probably once a month or once quarterly, of just sitting down with music or on a plane. I love doing it on a plane. So if you traveled here, do it, go back home. But defining your mess. And I have a few questions that are going to kind of prompt you to answer these. But the first one is just an example, like what has been really hard in your fitness journey? You know, for me, I talked about my identity being found in my weight, in my size, and my performance in my teens. And I love these questions of like, I really like to like get in your head and imagine these of like, what has it felt like in the past to wake up on Monday mornings? Maybe you've had a job that feels overwhelming and you look at your week and you're like, I don't even know if I can do this. Like imagine, like get back into that place and be like, what did I feel like when I woke up on a Monday morning? And write that down. And another, maybe what has it felt like to get dressed for previous date nights? That's a really big one. And all of these don't have to relate to you, but these are just prompts for you to think about, like, oh my gosh, like I actually remember a time when I was getting dressed for date night and I kept throwing my clothes around and trying to find something because I didn't feel confident in anything I wore. And it feels hard to go on a date night when you don't feel beautiful and confident and secure. And then the last one is just thinking about what challenging season has occurred in the past 5 years. So for me, I talk a lot about singleness. If you go to my page, you can find a post, like every 6 posts, that talk about what God taught me in singleness, how marriage is teaching me about singleness. And those are literally the most saved, shared posts I ever have. And that's a beautiful thing about our job, is I think when we start to expand from just workouts and fitness, like we get to connect with people on a level where they trust you and they understand you. And when I hop on, I'm not hopping on for Success Club. I'm hopping on because I care so deeply about my story and my mess that I want to connect with women that are in that right now, and I can welcome them into something that's going to help them get through it. And that's where the powerful parts come from.
As you can tell, we're note takers.
I know, I love it, you guys. And this is something too, like I said, like I love writing about this in the mornings or on a plane, just when you feel creative, because it's important to really define this. So defining your mess is important. We're going to go to the next slide, because that's when your mission becomes really clear. And your mission is what I like to tell my team. It's your pain redefined as your platform. Your struggle is your story. Your past is your platform. It is the scariest thing to share about, but it is the realest thing to share about. And just to give an example, I use this a lot right now because it's still a recent part of my story. But when I came home and I was going through that broken engagement, like I felt so broken and I felt like no one could relate to me. I was 23 at the time. None of my friends had gone through that. And I looked on Instagram and I was like, no one writes about these things. And I felt like God was telling me this year to write the things of encouragement that I wish I could have read during that season. And so if you have that mess in your head, just tell yourself, like, what did I wish I could have read that I'm going to give someone now? And that's a really helpful prompt as well. So to define your mission is to take your mess and be like, okay, if I went through that, I want women to be able to come to my page and feel empowered and not alone. And like they can place their hope in something greater. That's a mission. It could be experience and identity that has been freely given to them. And I talk about that in regards to health and fitness. Not being like trapped by your weight or the scale or calories or this and that, but actually experiencing like this freedom, knowing that like who you are, your body, like everything you do is to glorify God. Like you're good how you are. And we get to do this on top of that, right? My mission is to help women love their job, to feel fulfilled at the end of the day. And I talk about this a lot too, because my husband and I play so hard. We just like leave town and go do random activities. But I really believe in a life where you can be a woman and a wife who works really hard and then also has a really full life with time marked by people and experiences and trips. And so often we hear people are trapped on that hamster wheel where they don't have time to take off, or they're so consumed by their job, or really what they care about is making a ton of money. But what is a life that is just marked by those things? Like I believe in a life that is marked by experiences and people and in community and serving, right? And so starting to understand, like, man, based on my mess, what is my mission? And then we start to understand that Beachbody is simply just a tool. It's a vehicle that we get to meet people with and ultimately bring them to a bigger mission themselves. I can share these slides with you too, Caroline, if you'd like.
That'd be amazing.
At the end of this. Why is this important? I love speaking to believers because I can just be straight up with you, but I really believe that we hear this so often too, but we can believe that life is chaos. And by that, I mean that stuff happens randomly and that we have control over a lot of things and we have to think better and be better and do better to predict what's coming next. Or we can believe that life is a story. And I believe that life is a story and that God is the writer of it, right? And what does every story has? It has conflict. Every movie, every book, there's some part where you're watching it and your stomach just like churns because you're like, no, I don't want that for them. Every story has that conflict, and that's what makes it good. And God equips those in conflict to walk out of it with a greater story to serve others. That is why your mess is important. Everyone, for odds, this is crazy. It's our job, but we actually get to meet people in the midst of their mess and connect them with their health. Like you speak into your team this way and you start to train your coaches this way and you empower them to share their mess and their mission, and they have something so much greater that gets them out of bed versus just Success Club and rank advancing. You start creating this community of women. It's deep, it's so real, it's so authentic, and people feel known and seen. And that's how you guys go from diamond to star diamond to 5-star diamond and above. It really is. That is how you create a team that you have sisters that aren't going to quit when the season gets tough.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our mess and mission. Now it's like, okay, how do I actually get on Instagram and do this? Like, that's really great. I have it down, but now what, right? This is my best friend, Jade. She was a bridesmaid this March. I just have to tell her story because it's amazing. This March, she was standing next to me and she felt really insecure and like fatigued and just like showing up empty. She'd always say, I feel like I'm showing up empty. And she finally started Beachbody right after her wedding and has lost 25 pounds since March. She has hit Success Club 10 every month since she started, and she's almost diamond. And I just think, and she's a believer too. She's from Atlanta, Georgia. So if any of you guys are from Georgia, but I brought her on this page because when I speak to someone, like I speak to Jade, and that's what this is about, of actually how to take your mess and mission and bring it to your stories, your posts, and your inbox as well. So this is important, like I said, to reach diamond and beyond. And then I'm sure you guys have heard this, but I feel like for years I was speaking to everyone. Like I was the girl that could talk about every workout, every nutrition. I could sell Shakeology to anyone. I could talk about the pre-workout. And I was so passionate that, yeah, that got me success in the business. But at the same time, I was speaking to everyone. And you know what happened was when there were months that were dipped low, I was like, what am I even doing? Do I love Beachbody enough to keep showing up? I have to know who I'm speaking to, right? And I started to understand that, man, like women now especially are signing up with me, not because they care about Beachbody, but because they want me. Like they want to be led by me. They want me to speak into them. They trust me. And there's something about where I'm at right now or what I've gone through that they take where I am and they want to follow me. And that's how you build a really deep, meaningful team. So this is how we're going to do it. Rachel Bodie, first of all, that's her Instagram. If you guys don't follow her, write her down, follow her. She is literally game changer. I say that because I know we're thrown a ton of business coaches all around us, but she is the first coach where I've actually taken everything she has said and implemented it. And it is absolutely game changer. So she was a Beachbody coach, created 6 figures in less than 2 years. She worked for John Maxwell for 15 years. So she comes from a background of leadership development, which is incredible. And she's a believer. So best of both worlds, right? But her stories and her page is literally to help social sellers like us. And so when you watch her stories, I'm like screenshotting all of them. I'm like, yes, I just want you like everywhere with me because everything she says is so helpful. Get on her email list, all that stuff. And I'm saying this because it really has like changed everything. So a lot of what we're going to do now is actually rooted in the stuff she's taught me. Okay, but first, do you guys ever feel like you create content and it feels like you're throwing spaghetti at the wall, like just to see if anything sticks?
Yes. I've said that too many times and I know that's probably not good.
But it really is. And sometimes when you get so much in your head, you're like, I don't even know what to say on Instagram stories today. Like if I talk about my dog, that feels stupid. Or if I talk about what I'm doing this weekend, no one cares. I don't know. You just like start to overthink stuff, or you draft up a post that you think is really good and like you don't get a lot of likes, or you feel like no one fills out the form or engages with your poll or this and that, especially with Instagram views being down right now on stories, like what? It just feels like it can feel really discouraging. And that's what this is for. So based on your mess and mission, this is a second thing to kind of write down and go through. I'm going to ask you guys 3 questions. And based on these 3 questions is actually how you're going to start speaking into your stories and your post and your conversations. So the first conversation is you meet your friend at coffee and you don't know a lot about her, but you start to hear her story and you realize that her story is similar to yours. Your mess, things you've gone through, things you've felt. Maybe it's that you felt that way on a Monday morning, or you felt discouraged here and there. What would you tell her if you were sitting across the table from her in a coffee shop? What would you tell her? And I have examples on the next slide. But just really thinking like, man, thinking about what she's gone through, her story, like what would you tell her? And then I encourage you guys to take more time after this call to also go through these questions. I think I sat at a coffee shop and did this for like an hour. I just brain dumped everything. I was like, what would I tell her? What would I tell her? And then the second question is writing down what is holding her back. And then that third question is what does she need to hear today? What does she need to hear today from you? This has helped so much narrow my focus. And I hope you guys feel it right now, even of like hearing these questions and starting to answer them and be like, oh my gosh, like this is what I'm going to start speaking on. This is what I'm going to start saying. And I'll warn you that it's going to feel really bold. It's going to be outside of your comfort zone. You're going to say things boldly that not all people feel. And that's the point, because you're only going to be speaking to one person. And you're going to get messages back that are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you've said that. Or I feel like you already know me. I got 3 in the past 2 weeks of girls messaging me, not even after connecting with them, but saying, it feels like you're speaking to me. And that's the business that I want to have. That is the impact that I want to have. I want a girl to sign up to me because she hears me and she understands me, and she finally has hope for the first time that someone actually understands what she's going through right now, and I can help her. That opens the doors to the most authentic, deep clients. Therefore, it opens the doors to them not quitting after week 1 because you know their story. And that leads to developing a team of coaches that know that you care deeply about their mission, their growth, where they're going. And that is a beautiful thing. So I'm going to go through just a few examples. So my first one was, what would you tell her if you were sitting across the table from her today? I just added a few, but my first one was that I feel so deeply about the fact that you can be free from habits that no longer serve you. You can be free from a job that no longer serves you. You can be free from overthinking everything you eat to looking at yourself in the mirror 1,000 times a day. You can be free from being on a cycle that feels discouraging every week, of wondering, how are you even going to show up for your job, for your kids, for your husband this week, if you can barely show up for yourself? An example of what is holding her back, I really try to get in her mind, and I just think like she's passionate about fitness, but she lacks the motivation to start. Or every time she starts something, she's so excited, but ends up falling off. She shows up to her job every day, but knows that it's not what she wants to do long term. but she lacks the first step to make a change. Like really imagining, like, what does she feel on a Monday? What does she feel when her friend invites her to work out? What does she feel when she's even watching her stories? Like, you see women do the things, but you think, how could I possibly do what she does? I have kids, I have this, I have that. And then you transition into, what does she need to hear today? You don't have to be stuck anymore. I got you. I've been there. I'd love to invite you to experience this opportunity that has helped change my life in so many ways. And you start to have those answers. And then every day you go back to these things and you choose one to speak on. I want to see. Okay. And to add on to that too, who has heard of the thing that Carl talks about a lot? It's problem, solution, invite. Yes, I think a lot of us have heard it, right? Kind of. Okay. That's also a really good way to think of, like, man, my stories and my captions should always start with the problem. It should go into my solution and then inviting them to experience what I have to offer, right? So this is something too of, like, I would think about, what would you tell her if she was sitting across the table? I would think of her problem. I would say, man, the way you wake up on a Monday feeling like you can barely show up for the week, like, I felt that way too when I was going through a full-time teaching job and I had to be away from my family. The solution would be, this business opportunity slowly gave my family a chance to make money, to make gaps that were needed. And I want you to check this out more because this could work for you. So really bold, really specific, and giving them the chance to join you. Does that make sense to everyone? Is that helpful?
Yes.
Yes.
So awesome. Definitely take time to brainstorm this and think about this. And Rachel always says, like, it takes so much practice. It takes so much practice to speak to someone specifically. But once you nail it and once you really are confident in it and bold, like, that is when people hear your voice and they're like, oh my gosh, like, Caroline, like, can we just talk? Can I just be a part of anything? Like, I don't care what it is, but I want to work with you because you know me. And that's what we want. Okay, so kind of segueing, I don't even have that much left for you guys. But here's something that my husband has been encouraging me in, and I've been sharing it because I think it's so important. So we post our stories, we're clear in our mission, we make our posts, all that stuff. Then what happens when someone comes to you? Then what happens when someone wants to have a conversation with you? I love to say this whenever I'm going into big groups, like leadership the other weekend, just the idea of being more interested than interesting. It's so common. We'll walk in groups and everyone's talking about themselves, right? That's just a human nature thing to do. Like, we love to talk about ourselves. We love to be interesting, especially if it's something new and on Instagram. We just want to be cool and we want to fit in and this and that, right? But here's the deal. As a coach, we get to actually serve people. It's not about us. It's leading with a servant heart. And when we lead with a servant heart, that means we're more interested in other people than we are trying to be interesting, especially when it comes down to the conversation. And that's also why it matters so much to speak to her. Because when you're speaking less about yourself, she's like, she's interested in my past. She's interested in my mess right now. So this is where I encourage you to be different in your stories, be bold in your stories, be confident. When they come to you and you have conversations with them, be the first one to ask questions. Be the first one to ask questions. The same thing that you would say in person. Like, doesn't even have to be scripted, but what's going on in your life? What feels hard right now? What do you struggle with? What are obstacles that you want to get over that's going to make you feel healthier? What feels hard as a mom? Like, what do you need to do to be able to keep up with your kids or have that energy to be stoked for the day with them? Really understand their needs, be interested, be the first person in a long time that makes them feel known and seen. And I think Maura said this at leadership, but I love this. And I've been telling this to my team of just less fancy, less graphics. Don't worry about your post. Your B- work is enough to impact someone. Messy action is enough to impact someone. Record a story and post the first one you do. Don't re-record. write a caption and post it, even if you feel like it's not perfect. Like, start making this business just less fancy and more conversations. If your inbox is empty, nothing's happening. Nothing is happening. Reach out to people, start conversations, ask them how they're doing, more conversations, and then more mentorship. And I promise that's when this gets really fun, is when we think less and we try to be less perfect, and we just show up with a servant heart, and we just want to talk to people and know their needs, because when we know their needs, that's when we can meet them. Okay, last 2 slides, I wrote secret to success. But this is really what it comes down to. Like, I really think this is what it comes down to. It's connect with women daily. And I know that's part of our BAT, connect with people. So if you haven't done Reels yet, definitely hop on Reels. That automatically connects you with a lot of people. And I welcome every new follower that comes in. I welcome them. I say hi. I let them know that they can reach out anytime. That could be finding new pages, finding new accounts, following them, fellow moms, believers, whoever your niche is, right? Starting to connect with them. The second part is to add value to them. That's when the mission, speaking to her comes in. So you guys got that under control now. And the third one is to invite them to experience what you have to offer. Whether that's through a message or you're speaking them over the phone. I've noticed over the past 6 months that this has been the easiest it has ever been for me, because of what I'm offering, like the value that I'm pushing out, the things that I'm talking about. Is my messages are filled with girls asking about singleness or body image or this and that. Like, it's actually so much less about like, I want to get fit and I want to look a certain way. It's like, this is what I've been through, and I get to connect with them and actually invite them into a community that's going to love them really well. And then the last part is thinking about coaches, is thinking about Star Diamond and above, is then you actually get to empower them to use their own mess and mission to serve others. Those are the 4 things. If you can connect with people, if you can add value, if you can invite them to experience what you have to offer, and then empower them, you're going to have a really cool team. And this is going to take a long time. I've been doing this now like this way for probably a year and a half. It has been slow and steady, but volume doesn't lie. When you're downline strong, that's the most incredible thing in the world. And knowing that this business takes years to build, just as it does for you to transform and grow and evolve. Secret to Success 2.0. Sometimes I feel like I don't give enough, work hard, but it really is like, treat this business like a business. Treat this like a business. Show up and be consistent every single day. I show up every single day, except for the weekends, except for prep time. But man, when you wake up and you remember why you are waking up, and I hope you guys start to experience that after this call too, of don't wake up for rank. Don't wake up for Success Club. Wake up because you know there's a girl that needs you to tell your story so boldly that she feels known for the first time. Expect there to be a ton of rejection. Coaches who quit, girls who say no. That is so beautiful. It's the same thing with losing followers. You want your people to stay. And if people don't vibe with you and love you, those aren't your people. And that's a beautiful thing. There are businesses out there that host hundreds of interviews with different people to find the right fit. We don't do that. It kind of happens naturally, but don't take it personally. And then the last thing is just expand on acceptance. When you do find a girl, expand on that and run with that deeply. That is all I have for you guys. I hope that was helpful, but really
that's all. Yeah, it wasn't much. That was so much.
I have 3 pages.
I just need the slide. I feel like I could sit with those slides. Yeah. For 3 hours.
Yeah, just sit with them and write down a ton of things like you're saying.
Yeah.
I love it because I feel like a lot of us came, we were talking about this earlier, but we've kind of been in our heads a little bit, even with social media, just there's just so much out there right now, and all these trainings, and it can almost paralyze you.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, you need to be doing this, or you need to be doing that, or you need to focus on one thing. You know, it's just, there's so many things. And I think we're kind of on a place where it's like, we don't have a whole lot. I mean, this isn't like, this is our full-time job, but it's our full-time job in part-time hours, you know what I mean? And so for some people, it's a side hustle. So that can feel really overwhelming, you know, like when you've only got a few hours to give every day. But if we look at it like this and keep our focus on like the mission, and like, I love these prompts.
Yeah.
And I think even too, like, I usually plan my social media out in advance. So even just being able to sit down in once with all of these things, and I almost feel like it's easier to do it all at once, because you just have like, you get a flow, and you're just like, you're just typing your heart, you know what I'm saying? Instead of getting in our head about like it having to look, I don't know, one way. And those things are helpful, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you can get in your head with them. So,
I mean, I actually think about it a lot of like sharing the gospel, even like you don't just walk around the street telling people the gospel if you don't know their story. Instead, you understand their story and you share yours. And when I shared mine with you guys, it's evident of the way that the gospel changed my life. But that wouldn't make sense if I didn't tell you that I'd come home, I was going through that breakup, I was this, I was that, right? So the same way with Beachbody, it's like, we can't lead with Beachbody. You can't lead with that because people run. You can't lead with the Bible. You can't just put it in someone's face like they run, right? You lead with your story, how it's impacted you, your mission. And then people are like, I trust this girl. I want to know more about what she's doing, and I want to join her. And I don't really care what it is, but obviously they know what it is. But it just makes it easier. And there are so many trainings, but like every coach who is top 10, especially, like does things so differently. So watch people's stories less, wake up and journal and have time with God, and just like write down, what do I feel today? Like, what am I learning? Like, another thing that I do too is think about like, what am I currently learning, and how can I invite people into it? Those are my challenge groups. Those are literally my challenge groups of what do I feel like I'm currently learning? How can I implement this into a group? And who else needs this right now? It could be, it could be getting outside for a walk every day. It could be a devotional with every workout every day. This month I'm doing one, it's called Become Heard. And it's the whole idea of like, you visualize the woman that you want to be, but you're frustrated because you can't get there. And it comes down to our habits and things, and we're like uncovering habits and stuff and how that impacts everything we do. And I'm like, I need that right now. And other people do too. And so just really understanding like where you're at, your story makes this business really fun and impactful and fulfilling. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
I have two.
Awesome.
So you do like monthly challenge group versus just having like an ongoing kind of community?
So I actually have an ongoing group, and then I bring new girls into it at the same day every month, and kind of change up the theme. And then all of the girls know what the new theme is, so they can participate in it too if they like.
Okay, cool. And then is this what you shared with us today? Is this something you talk about in like your new coach onboarding, or what does your new coach onboarding look like for you? Because I can tell that this is something that you really kind of implement it sounds like from day one with your team.
Totally. Yeah. So here's the thing. I feel like when new coaches sign up, they're so scared to start most of the time. And if you're like, our first goal is success starter, like they just don't get it. Like if they've never been to a Beachbody event, they don't get it unless they're like a unicorn coach and you're like, you're perfect, like you get everything and you do everything. But they need something bigger than Success Club to get them out of bed, especially when they get their first no's. And so my new coach training is actually, I talk about on the second slide, I talk about your coach announcement post. And in that coach announcement post, it goes right into the problem solution invite. So right away, I'm helping them identify their mess, like what has been hard in the past 2 years. It might not be as deep as like what I talked about today, but they already start to know like what feels really hard. How has this been helping me? And I want to ask you to join me. So as a new coach, that's the first thing that they do is they know their story. And they also know Success Club, like to hit that and to make sure that that's a priority.
Is there any chance you would share that PowerPoint slide with me, Mallory?
Totally. Yeah. I actually just updated it the other day. So
We're in the process of like revamping our new coach mentorship, and I would love to just see it.
Totally. Yeah. I have a PDF too. So
Like,
do you guys know like Ashley Feldison and Kate Schultz?
Yes, I don't, but I do.
We are doing like a collaboration when we got back from, and I'm pulling it up really quick, from leadership, and we're kind of all using the same stuff. So this is what Ashley created, and it's your first 4 weeks.
That's cool.
And I think what I've learned is like, there's not like a right or wrong way to do this, as we all know, but just really laying out like what are their first 4 weeks. And then the video is actually one that references this a lot. So I can share the video with you and anything too, besides.
That'd be amazing.
That's also, yeah.
Yeah.
If you ever want anything of ours, obviously, just let me know.
It's hard though. It's like, oh my gosh, how do I not overwhelm a new coach, but also make them understand what's important, you know?
Yes.
I have a question. So you said that whenever you get new followers, you always reach out. What does that message look like? Because I always struggle between, like being honest, because I don't ever want someone to think like, oh, well, she's just making small talk with me so that she can, business or something. But so being honest about like what I do, but also not like pushy about anything.
Yeah, that's so good. I'll write my thing down now, but it really is game changer. Like, I also think like our Instagrams are our storefronts, right? So if someone's walking into it, like I want to welcome them and say hi. So I always like to think of that too. So I usually say like, hey Sam, thanks for the follow. It's so fun to share my fitness routine on here and connect with other women. I'll share this in the chat. Just wanted to say hi. Something like that. But what that does is, because I say like it's so fun to share my fitness routine on here, they'll usually say something about fitness, and I'll all of a sudden know like, okay, you're struggling with your fitness journey, or you're someone that likes to follow inspo accounts. And then I just ask them like what they're currently doing, what they love. I do not usually invite them within that first conversation unless it's so obvious and I'm like, hey, you should try out this sample workout. But that's always really helpful. And I think like if someone's following you, like Caroline, I don't know how many followers you have, over 20,000 or something, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay. If I'm following you, am I going to want to reach out to Caroline? Probably not, because numbers are awesome, but they also make people feel intimidated. I really believe that. And we happen to work in an industry where health and fitness can be someone's most vulnerable journey. So for a girl that actually feels like she's in a really dark place, is she really going to reach out to someone with 20,000 followers? Maybe. That's why we speak to her, which is really important. But beyond that, when you break down that barrier and say hi to her first, she all of a sudden feels like she can come to you anytime in the future, which is really helpful too. So that's kind of the main reason I do it, is I want them to feel like they can come to me versus they have to be the first one to initiate the conversation.
I like that, because I kind of got away from doing that for a while, just because I don't know, I did it for a really long time, and then I kind of got into sending invites, but I almost feel like I used to send thank you messages for like 2 years. I never sent one invite, like just being real. And this is before I did coaching full time, but like it was like the 2 years, like when I hit elite for the first time and all that, like I only sent thank you invites and never sent an invite, but or not thank you invites, but like just messages, like a kind of like a thanks for following me, like kind of a hi, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And I feel like that I was hitting higher Success Club numbers then than when I'm trying to invite people. Does that make sense? It's
totally.
like,
yeah.
And I get messages back all the time of people being like, oh my goodness, thank you so much for messaging me. Like, I cannot believe you reached out to me, or like replied to my Instagram story, or, like they just think it's crazy that I'm actually watching.
Yeah, same. That's really, do I invite? Oh my gosh, absolutely. Every day, especially now in like a Q4 push. I do connections for like 20 to 30 minutes a day. Good questions. I can copy and paste it in here. I do connections for 20 to 30 minutes a day. I'm actually really hot on the UK market right now. As of like last week, I've been going to UK Instagrams, and it's like we might as well, if we're going to connect with new accounts, right? Because I've heard UK, France, like it is a new energy in the way that like people here know what it is for the most part, maybe, but in the UK and France, it's like, that's so new to me. Wow. Like it's a gift to be able to share with them. So for my connections, I've been doing that. My invites
with UK, because I'm really big on like one-on-one Zooms. I'm introverted, and so I thrive off like one-on-one stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, that time difference just wouldn't work. But
yeah, it can, but it's like a slim window. But so that's been fun, like connecting with UK fitness accounts and then just women as well, right? So I do that, and then my invite. So it really depends, but I'll copy and paste one that I've recently been using. So here's the deal. I believe that your invite is half in the message and half in your page. So when I'm showing up and I'm speaking to her and I'm talking about my mission, I feel like my invite is just a continuation of that, right? Like they're watching my stuff and then they get this message, and it makes sense that they get it because they can hear me talking about the way coaching has changed my story or the programs, right? Okay, so this is one I've been using this week just because I've been talking a lot about coaching too. And this was specifically to a girl where I saw what she was posting on her story, and she was needing community or feeling really lonely. She lives in Montana. And so that's why I so that's my invite. The thing that's different about this one compared to most is if it's just about the fitness group, I'll end it with saying like, I'll end it like that, like blah, blah, blah. I want to invite you to my next fitness group. I always end it with like, if you're open to learning more, I'd love to send a sample workout. Free value is the best thing that you can give them like right away, right? So those are my invites. And I will say, like, this business gets harder as you go. I think maybe when you build a really massive following, maybe you don't have to invite as much. I don't know how all the coaches do it, but it like, I feel like it gets harder. Carolina, I don't know what you think, but like, I definitely have to work for my numbers and what I do now.
I think like there's seasons when it's easier and then seasons when it's harder. Yeah. And like for some reason, actually it's funny because I was reading this book this morning I've been finishing up this book called Walking with God by John Eldredge. And he talks about the different seasons. And it's so crazy because I feel like because our businesses are so like tied to like life circumstances, like it almost made sense. Like it was almost like when I was reading it, it made sense for the business too. But he was saying like fall is a time of like kind of like not pruning, but like kind of like you're working through your mess and just like, and I do feel like that's in a sense how it feels with coaching. Sometimes like the fall always feels a little hard to me because it does. People are getting back into a routine and like there's a lot of just like there's just a bunch of refinement happening, and it's like winter comes and it's like more of a restful season, and then spring comes and it's like fresh and new and growth, and you know it's just it's cool how that kind of honestly relates over into our businesses too.
Totally, 100%. I mean, it's constantly shifting, and I'll say like even more than my invites, my follow-ups are where I get most of my clients every single month is my follow-ups. Is checking in with girls that I've talked to maybe the month prior or 2 months prior. Like those are the girls that are like, okay, I'm ready, you know? So it definitely takes work. Inviting.
How many hours a day do you work? Because obviously this is your full-time job. You don't have kids, like, out of curiosity.
So I wake up and I work out in the morning, and I get that done usually by 9 or 10. Let myself have breakfast. We hang out because my husband's job is very flexible in the mornings as well. I don't know, probably like 4 to 6 hours depending on calls. But also there's some days where I'll literally work like an hour. So I don't know, maybe like 20 to 40 hours a week. I know that's a massive range. But I definitely do my power hour before anything. I'm doing the things that move my business forward. And I also feel like I'm in a season of rebuilding right now. So I do have a team to pour into. And yet at the same time, the girls that I do have to pour into are kind of like like they manage themselves. So right now it really is like, who are my next girls? And that's where a lot of my energy is going right now.
Yeah. And I mean, you're in a season of life where you can do that. Every season's going to be a little different. So.
Totally. Yeah. And I think it just takes like, it's so normal to feel discouraged. I think I've been in a season of feeling discouraged of like, am I incapable of developing leaders? Like, I think when you find any kind of success and then the year after is hard, it's just been so cool for me to navigate even self-doubt. Because at the beginning, like, I feel like I was just like, this is awesome. Like, so not easy, but like kind of, like, I don't even know how it happened when I look back that quickly, but now it's like, okay, like now I know what hard work looks like. I know what it feels like to persist when your 2-star quits. I know what it feels like when you feel like you can't develop a diamond in months, right? And so it really is a season where I feel like I'm thankful for this extra time because I feel like my mind needs it. But yeah, are most of you guys moms? I can see obviously so many babies on the camera, but yeah.
Well, she's pregnant with her first.
My first time.
But she works a full job, so it's kind of like this is her side hustle. And then
cool. So awesome. I think that's more relatable when you have a job and a kid. Like, it's hard for someone to see maybe me and Caroline who do it full time to be like, I have time for that. Whereas you guys have the coolest position right now to be like, even in the midst of this, you can do this too. And that's part of a mess too, right? Is feeling like you have no more time to put more on your plate, and yet you can for the long run. That's cool.
I have another question. Okay, so you said you do themes every month for your group. What does that look like for you? Like how, because I'm kind of in this season where because my group is really just on GroupMe and it's thriving on there. So I have a bod group, but I don't really do anything in it because I have just a lot of moms who just talk all day in the GroupMe, which is amazing.
Yeah.
It's really good, but I want to do like, I'm getting to a point where I just want to do more fun themes, and I just wonder what that looks like for you, like how you make little challenges and stuff to get your girl interacted with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think the most important thing is doing what works best for you. Like, if you're like, at the end of the day, our job is to help our clients win. If your clients are winning right now, you're doing your job, which is in some parts why things are like important, because you're like, my challenge group is dead and I don't know what to do. Therefore, I'm going to put more effort into it. But first of all, if your clients are winning, you are like the golden coach here. But I will say, I feel like for me,
so like trying to come up with cute themes to like advertise.
Yeah.
Not much for the girls in there. Of course, I want it to be fun for them too, but they are doing really well. Like, they show up, they're doing great. It's more of like how to just make it different month to month than just talking about the exact thing on my stories.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're learning anything this month about yourself? Like maybe morning routine, night routine, like?
Yeah, I guess I was just trying to think of more like fun themes, because I just feel like I've kind of been in the same cycle.
Yeah.
Stuff for the last few months, and because it is getting into fall and people are more chill, and like I didn't really worry about it in the summer because everyone was traveling so much, so no one was really going to participate with that kind of things. But I
think themes could be anything. You don't want it to be like overpowering because it can't like be too much effort on their end. But going into fall, I just think of how important mornings are. And I know it's such a commonly used thing, but like it gets darker and colder and it's so much harder to be motivated, right? Like, I feel myself, I think in Montana, I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed when it's pitch black and so cold out to work out. So, a theme that I've been talking about a lot in my group, like that's happening right now before the next one, has just been, what do your mornings look like? How is that? Really talking about there was this podcast on self-discipline that was talking about, to have discipline, you have to have like self-love, or like caring deeply about your health enough that snoozing your alarm is not self-love. Like, that takes no discipline, staying in bed. But self-love is actually making yourself get up at your alarm, starting your morning, working out, reading, spending time with the Lord. Like that's loving yourself so deeply that you get to walk into your day. And so those are my themes of like, they're not anything like fun or crazy. It's more of like hitting a need that someone has and making it like, this is what we're going to focus on every single day. So right now I have a hype board. I tally everyone's workouts each week and post them. And I think what's helpful too is I do gut checks. I go live. I tell them this is the slowest challenge group ever. Like, where is everyone? And I'll tag all of them. And I normalize falling off. And I tell them, like, because it's so normal, you guys, right? We have half of our challengers fall off. And it's telling them, like, if you feel like you've fallen off or this has happened in your life or you feel embarrassed to come back on the page. That's kind of like what KK was saying is like, yeah, for bod groups, but I do Facebook right now, actually. Don't tell corporate. But KK was talking about if they fall off and they see a notification pop up with that group, what do they feel? They feel like they just want to like walk away from it, right? Like they don't want to come near it at all. And so I tag them, I text them, and just allowing them to feel normal in the fact that you do fall off. It feels hard. So, yeah, I'll link the podcast. It's not very like Christian-y, it's different, but I'll link the podcast for you guys.
Well, Mallori, I want to be cognizant of your time. I know you have a lot going on, but does anybody have any last real quick questions? We can always message you or text you or something too if we come up with anything later.
Yeah, send me your email and I'll send over the slides in the podcast for you guys.
Oh yeah, I'll send it to you.
Cool. Thanks guys for your time. Have so much fun.
Mallori, I want to pray for you really quick before we hop off.
Thanks, Caroline.
Heavenly Father, God, thank you so much, Lord, for this amazing morning. Thank you for Mallori and just, God, her taking her morning, her birthday, Lord, to be here with us, God. I'm just so thankful for her and thankful for her commitment to you, God. What a cool story, just how you've worked in her life and you've literally transformed her over the past year and a half. And now she gets to use her story for your glory. And God, we just praise you for that. I'm just so thankful to have connected with her, God, at leadership and just get to meet her. Lord, it's just a reminder of like, how cool is it that we get to live on mission together? We may not be on the same team as far as Beachbody World goes, but God, we're on the same big team and we get to be a light in this broken world, in this dark industry, in this secular company. God, we get to be a light and shine for you. And Jesus, I just thank you for that. God, I just want to pray over Mallori. I want to pray blessings over her business, Lord, as she's just in the season of rebuilding, that you would bring the right people to her, God, that you would bring just leaders and people who want to run on mission with her, God. Lord, I pray for blessings over her and her husband and her family, God, that you would just continue to use them in incredible ways in the ministry that they're doing and the work that they're doing of pouring into college students, Lord, and that you would just be at work in their lives. God, we love you so much. We praise you and just pray blessings over this day that's ahead of us, God. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you guys so much. I've never been prayed over in a Beachbody thing. That was amazing. Thank you.
Well, you're the best. Thank you so much.
Enjoy your guys' weekend. So nice to meet y'all. Bye.
Bye.